joining us today. As Ryan said, I'm Jordan Ealey. I had the pleasure of serving as a dramaturg for this process this week, and yeah, so just gonna ask a couple of questions just so you all hear about from the collaborators, and then we'll get out of here and enjoy this beautiful day. Yay! Woo! Short, sweet, and to the point. Yeah, so Anita and I met a couple of years ago. This is the second time we've collaborated on musicals. I'm a professor at the University of Rochester. Thanks, everyone. In the Department of Black Studies, and my focus is on Black musical theater, specifically on Black women authored musicals from 19th century to the present. And so Anita working on musicals, specifically featuring Zora Hurston, which is one of the people I'm interested in. We came together and she invited me to also join this project for this time period. So that's a little bit of how I came to the project. So I'd love to hear each of you talk about your interest in this project and what brought you to this project, and specifically how it resonates for you creatively, personally.
Project started when I saw a picture that my father had on his dresser, and it had in it 3 men. It was 1 black man and 2 white men, and they were all sitting in these rattan chairs looking just like gorgeous, like they owned the world. And I said, Daddy, look at these people, what are they doing? Who are they? And he said, oh, that's my dad. And I was like, really? It said my dad, and it turned out he was an Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Cuban tobacco roller, tabacero. And he had been ousted from the community of white Cuban cigar rollers, and he ended up just making cigar boxes. So that story interested me, and I did a lot of dramaturgical research about Tampa, Florida, and then I wrote this piece actually for Bellagio Fellowship in Italy as a play, and then later I shelved it and then opened it up again and met Dan Furman to be able to try to work on music for the project.
And I met Anita at a Dramatists Guild meeting. They have, occasionally they have things like, I think it was composer librettist meetup. And so like the composers show up and they play a song, and the dramatists come and read a little something from what they're doing, and then we get together afterwards and see if anybody's interested in working together. And so we met, and Anita sent me a score, and I think months went by.
Unions.
Right, we talked about unions because I had a lot of experience experiences working in factories that in unions, going on strike. I was a political activist and union and other things for quite a while. So a few months went by after we met. We talked. She sent me a script. I read it, and then I sent her a song back. And after that happened, we kind of started collaborating, thinking that this project might actually work. and that was when?
A long time ago. It was like 15 years ago.
Wow.
I would say we're musically married now.
That's right. Yes. I think our first reading was 2015.
Yeah.
At the Lee Strasberg Institute, where I was working.
Musicals take time.
Average of 8 years. Average.
Yeah. I'm Maija Garcia. I was invited by Anita and Ryan to direct this development process this week. So Anita and I met, and we were both trying to get to the bottom of it. But I suppose it was just a divine assignment that we came together actually in my hometown of Ann Arbor, Michigan, when Anita was working at the University of Michigan. And we just got together and had a very long coffee talk. And then years later, Ryan started the Latiné Musical Theatre Lab and reached out to me, and I've been on your advisory board and sort of offering counsel here and there. And so I think the two of them talking about this project thought of me. I've been developing new musicals for the last couple of decades, and I was just saying to my new friend back here, making new musicals is my jam. I'm Cuban American, and so I've spent a lot of time back and forth to Havana and working in film and theater. I'm very passionate about historical narratives because I find that they sort of give voice to the voiceless ancestors that are still present with us and that inform and influence our lives today. And there's so much relevance in this particular musical that really sings to me today. So it's been a joy to work with you all in it.
You know, for myself personally and also for the lab, we talk a lot about intersectionality within Latinidad, and you know, stories like this bring that to the forefront, and oftentimes stories about Afro-Latinos, stories written by women are very invisible when Latin musical theater in and of itself is also quite invisible. And so any opportunity to champion a story like this and to work with such amazing creatives, and I love Anita, and I can't tell you how excited I've been about this since the very first time we met, and also like the faith and trust Anita has in me that just makes me...
He's an amazing producer.
It just makes me feel really honored.
Spreadsheets.
I like spreadsheets and art. So any opportunity to collaborate with someone with the breadth and depth of experience that Anita has, and also like the faith and trust of someone who's very new in the game in many ways, it just fills me so much on a personal level.
So my other question is around the timeliness. Just one question. One question is about why does play, or what does this musical have resonance for now? Like, why this musical now? Why this play now?
Well, for me, since we lived with it so long, I want to just put that in the context. I was so grateful for Ryan to have the Latiné Musical Lab, because we never had anything like that. And it allowed me to read the play, because we read it a year ago, with young people, with people who are now coping with a whole different set of socio-political circumstances, to see if this historical play would have relevance. So I wanted to give it back to the community to find out what relevance they are. And at the table, people were still very passionate, both about unions and about racism within Latino communities. Yeah, and so that's what I would say about that.
Yeah, I feel like that it's become more relevant since we started working at it, actually. You know, because of what's happened in society, through the pandemic, through the protests, through all the stuff that's happened in the last 15 years, these topics are very important.
What do you all think?
I agree. Exactly.
Did you have a question?
I wanted to say that I love the whole story. I like the feel of the story. I love the two love stories that you have. I like the idea of the union. What I would like to see more, I know it's 45 minutes and it's maybe in the story already, I just don't know. But I would like to see, like you say, the issues between the workers themselves. I would like to see more of the conflict. I want to feel more of the pain of the darker skinned Cubans, what they're going through. I like to see all the conflicts between them. I like to see the pain and the suffering of what the unions are doing to both sides, and how they're fighting among each other, and I don't know how it ends, but how they come together if that's how you work it.
Thank you.
We are absolutely wrestling with those conflicts in the room. You know, as you know, you got to hear a very select taste of just a few moments in the show. So yes. I think you're speaking our language in the sense that we're really I would say those are all those conflicts exist on the page, and with our actors, with all these brilliant minds in the room, we're kind of digging in deeper to all of it to see what tension might be extracted that will teach us something. Yeah.
Jumping off of that comment, why did you choose the material you chose for today?
I mean, I think...
We don't know who made it.
You know, I think what it does is gives a lot of different senses of the musical styling. The goal for this was concert, first and foremost, to get you to hear different music. We also had the useful constraint of 4 actors to be able to present the different characters. You saw the different people played different roles, and so we wanted to present something that gave you a flavor, gave you a sense, made you want to see more, because, you know, we need support and help to make more happen. And we're excited for what we're going to be able to create in the room for that, but we're also excited to invite you all in at this in some ways very early stage for this iteration of this piece, as we find the pathways forward for it. And I think what we're finding this week is, as much as you all might experience of the depth of what's possible here, I gotta say, like sitting in the room with these collaborators, we are excavating, and I am so excited to continue to do that. We're here till Sunday getting to do this as well too. So you were literally catching us mid-flow, midstream, so to speak. So.
And I'll add to that and just say that I think some of the songs were chosen because they're strong, compositions. I mean, I think Dan's compositions are truly extraordinary, and the complexity inside of the music, I think, reflects the complexity of the book, and we're trying to really, find that synergy. And so the choices of the songs that are here are both like the songs that we think you'll fall in love with, right? And then also the songs that I think would show our actors well, that our singers and actors could do well. This is a play with about 11, 12
12
people, so they're playing a lot of roles, playing a lot of parts. But then also, trying to give it the arc of the show. Like, again, there's a lot of pieces missing, but to try to give a sense of who these folks are and what they're going through.
And thematically what's happening as well.
Excuse me, do you have a song that's dealing with the conflicts of what they're having going back and forth between the two sides, the way they feel among each other? I'm just wondering.
You mean like between the black community and the white community?
Oh yeah, with the workers themselves, the light, like you said, the light skin, the dark skin, the struggles that they're going through and fighting against each other.
We're kind of writing that song.
Yeah.
Where the scene
So
and
the
the
scene
song.
in the end is, so some of the text that you heard at the end of the presentation is some of the text that would have happened right after that song. But that song is actually, okay, so I'll say this. The song is actually the hardest one to write, because as we've constructed this animosity where the white tobacco workers decide to exclude the black workers and think they might be scabs, we don't know how to resolve that. Like, what is it that makes two groups that have built up hatred towards each other come to the table and agree to work together? That's really the question.
Right, and right now we're really excavating the three women's journeys. You have Luisa and Teresa, who are the white Cubans who have this connection to Irina, she's actually Afro-Caribbean. Haitian, we're saying now? She's Haitian. So she's way on the outskirts from the rest of the characters, and how is it that these three women, who are actually the backbone of the community, how do they come together to actually create change when actually a lot of the men, not to give it away, a lot of the men in the show unfortunately fail to bring to life maybe the vision they have for the world
And
of
I
their
don't know
communities.
how the dramaturgical and directorial team decided that the women were going to solve it.
We're in process.
I wonder how we came to that.
Yeah. But I would say though that Anita and I tried to come up with a solution to that very question for like the last 5 or 10 years. We've been working on it and writing things, and they're like, not quite. So this process has been really good, and the contributions of some are very intelligent actors have been a huge part of it, and and everybody here. So actually, I think now we're just speaking as the writers are in a position to actually answer that question in a much stronger way than we could before.
For sure. Did you have anything?
Still working on it.
I did, but it's probably after this. I was gonna ask, that question was so amazing. That question, that inquiry. I was gonna ask what's next in this particular process. What's the next step for you all?
Ask us in 4 days. Talk to us in 4 days.
Okay. I mean, ideally at the end of this week, the script will have evolved to sort of a place where we can share it with producers and perhaps look to do a longer workshop where we can explore, putting all the songs together, and hearing the entire book and music, maybe some staging workshops, maybe there's some things to work out that we won't know until we get people in a room, 11 or 12 actors. So that's the dream, is to sort of take it to the next step of development. Yeah, but I think we'll come out of this week with a really strong book and some songs for Dan to write.
Yeah, I was actually, thank you so much for that, because I was thinking the second song where they were going out, I was thinking there's such a great opportunity for all the cultures, like when you think about Afrobeats, Afro-Cuban music, You think that there's this, Haitian music, there's this moment where this cultural explosion can happen in that scene because they're going out, where you see the cultures under one roof have this moment of being seen in their culture through music, because I feel like that's the healing. Music is the healing.
Did you say that yesterday like 20 times?
Yeah.
I might have said that.
Music and dance just brings that energy of us together, and I feel like that's a great opportunity in that moment.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting, it kind of brings me back. Yeah, it kind of brings me back to that. There's a golden nugget of truth within this city, this Ybor City, which I just find so fascinating. Jordan, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but at the founding of this Martí Maceo social club or sociedad, really that was a place where people would, like, again, hear, like Jose Martí did speak there, the great orators. It was originally, the vision was for an integrated sort of Cuban expat or Caribbean expat society in the Tampa area, and the original vision was that everyone would be included in that society. But then the pressure of social divides cracked that apart.
Jim Crow laws actually
etc.
made white Cubans fear for their safety and being not American, and instead of bringing, like, sitting together, right, as a one unified community, they ostracized Black Cubans because they wanted to protect themselves as well, right? And so, I mean, it was obviously very racist, anti-Black, all these different things, and also it was a part of the protection of not being American and wanting to protect what you have. And so then that led into the establishment of social clubs for Black Cubans, La Sociedad Martí Maceo, yeah, in Ybor City, so.
So I guess to your point, the idea is like that originally that was the idea, but that at the time that this play begins, those societies are separate. So it's transgressive for Irina and Pedro to actually even attend that evening. So that there's
And of great risk.
maybe that's where we end up, maybe.
Can I ask one more thing? Sorry, guys. Well, the way I look at it is we live in America, right? And we live with all the different cultures. We have like about 120 different cultures all over the world. I mean, all over the world that live here, and we fight together. We love together. Whenever this country has the biggest problems, in the end of the day, we do all come together. That's what makes America as strong as we are today, right? So in this situation where you're dealing with the light skin and the dark skin, maybe there could be, I don't know, you say you're looking at history and you're looking how everybody worked with each other and all. Maybe there is something in history where maybe, generally, whenever two groups disagree or have fights or hate each other, there's always going to be at least somebody who has to come and give in the respect of something goes wrong with someone and they come and they help, or they save a life, or they just protect. Maybe you have the dark skin maybe help somebody who's light, and they learn from them and they come together in some kind of a way along those way. Because if you look at our culture overall, we do that. If somebody falls down in the street, people come and they help and they pick up that person, and you don't know what cultures they are doing that. So maybe in this small world, there is something along those lines, but I don't know what, just an example, but maybe something, like you said, you're doing that studies about how people came together. They must have come together because look, we are getting along together overall now. So something must have happened.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Last one.
Sorry, not
No,
last.
please.
I would just love to hear, especially from the creative aspect, from a creative brain side of it, the value that you've had of having, performers with live feedback in the room and getting that sort of thing. And then I'd love to hear a little, even 2 seconds of what Ryan might have to say about the importance of and the needs of having an organization that provides those sorts of things and establishes it for y'all to have the feedback that you need to your point, right? Oh, we needed to hear these people saying these words, singing these words in order to get that feedback loop really started. I would just love to hear if you felt like that was super successful in this process. I mean, halfway through.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you you can't hear what it is until the words come from different mouths. Through Ryan's process, he has different people doing the same role, so that gives you different insights into what the meaning of the text is, like how it lands on people's ears. You need all of that, and these were amazing performers who were willing to give their time and their spirits to actually contributing to a story that they could make on the stage.
I mean, I think I come from a performance background, so I spent about 10 years as a musical theater actor, and I have once been in a space like this as an actor in 10 years, and I think what we've created is a space where the actors are collaborators.
Yeah.
It's like being in a writing room. Like, we're all here together to create. Everyone's voice is really important, everyone's perspective is really important. I think, at the lab we think a lot about process. One of my personal missions is that I don't think that there is enough opportunity to just grow and develop a show. It's always about the result. If I can be totally blunt, this presentation is great. It's not the purpose of this week. It's a side bonus. You're all here just as a part of what we're doing, and we're so grateful to have you. But what's been great is what we've been working on most of the time has not been focused on this. We're inviting you in to get to watch us be in process, and I think that's made even just presenting this concept for everyone feel really joyous and iterative, because this isn't about the result. This isn't about the performance. This isn't about the end goal. It's an opportunity to be in process and say, what do we need? What does this show need? Instead of trying to put things through, this is the one way you develop a show, and I know that at the lab it's such a huge way we're thinking about trying to transform how the industry is, not just for Latine writers, but for the whole industry. By experimenting, by trying out new formats of how we develop musicals, by just creating space for process.
I just want to say that so I've been working as a musical theater dramaturg for the last few years, and oftentimes in musical theater workshops, the music takes over, right? Like we work on a lot on the music, which of course is a musical, is what people are most interested in, but the book doesn't get as much attention. But oftentimes when we go see a show, they'll be like, the book needs work, the book sucks. And usually that's why I'm there, because they're like, the book needs work. And so what's the beauty of this process is that we're really spending time developing the narratives, the scripts, the characters, their relationships, who they are to one another, who they are to one another, the history, all these different things that get really sidelined oftentimes in the musical theater workshop process, because it's like, we need the lights, we need the action. And so spending that time getting to work really on the story is something that is not necessarily always given. So I'm really grateful that we've had that extended amount of time to really delve into what are we doing here? What are we saying? And what is the story? What is the big story?
It's usually the actor who has the subconscious of the play and is able to improvise to the needs of the next unknown step. And Dan's hauntingly beautiful music is so evocative of now that maybe just to play the music to the actor and let the actor ruminate would be useful for the improv of the continuum unknown of the play. And if I say anything else, I'll have to say a joke or something.
Thank you all so much.